Okay, so how was your guys' first foray into plant morphology? Slow. Slower than you thought, right? It's about learning these terms and seeing them in real life that would be really helpful to you. I encourage you guys to go out on your own, into your own backyards even, and when you're looking over the terms fair games list, to really just get out and look at some of these things in nature. Okay, that will be really helpful for you. You could even create flashcards with pictures that you take exemplifying the terms if that's a study mechanism you want to use. Thanks, guys. Sorry.
Good luck.
You too. What were some of the terms that you were surprised by? Was anybody like, oh, okay, I didn't really understand that one? Or anything that you want to ask questions about? Morgan.
If we couldn't find all the terms, are we gonna get docs points for that?
So I'm gonna let you have like about 3 of them, Furbies, I think. But I want you to try and find all of them. There are some that are more challenging right now. For example, umbel. But there are umbels out there still. So go in your backyard and see what you can find. Okay. And I'm going to be a little lenient with some of them. That's why what you can't see on this paper, because it's printed out in black and white, this is up on Canvas. And if you look at it in Canvas, which is one that you're going to want to do because you're going to need to submit it electronically, it has 3 colors. And the terms are in beginner, intermediate, and advanced level. Most of them are beginner. Some of them are advanced. Fewer of them are advanced and some are intermediate. And that's just kind of in terms of finding them. They're a little bit more hard, but they're also just more technical terms, some that might be challenged by, okay? And they're all the same amount of points for the project, but I just wanted to let you know that that's how it's kind of set up. In addition, also on Canvas, did anyone actually look over the morphology bingo instructions before coming today? Regan did? Okay. There's a nice extensive document on the assignment where you submit this that explains this activity, okay? And if you have other questions, in particular, it defines what I consider a complete entry. And I explained that to you, 3 pictures showing the thing, having the term inside the iNaturalist notes page. But ultimately what you'll need to do is after you upload them to iNaturalist, you'll need to find the iNaturalist observation number and put it into the cell in Excel for that iNaturalist observation. When I grade these, I'm going to be looking at this sheet as well as your iNaturalist observations, and cross-referencing that and making sure, and then I'll give some feedback. So to upload this into iNaturalist, you of course upload those to your own observations in iNaturalist, but then you also need to pull it into the project for this one, which is called the Morphology Bingo Hunt on iNaturalist. So you need to join that group, and that's again in the instructions of how to do that, including the website, okay? So let's kind of look over a few of these terms. Let's see what I've got here. I brought a few plants with me, and here is one of them here, okay? Does anybody know what this is? Genus? Okay, this is what's called, some people call this Oregon grape, although that's actually a different species. This is Creeping Mahonia is the common name, all right? And it is Berberis or Mahonia is the genus. There's contention about what to call it. Berberis or Mahonia repens is what I would call it. So do you guys think this is an example? It's hard to do this because you guys are so far away. Do you think this is a compound leaf or a simple leaf? Okay, this is a compound leaf. And how we will know that is by looking for the axillary bud. Do you see this big thing right here that's sticking out? You can see it in profile. Camera. That's an axillary bud. That's how we know that this thing right here is the petiole, also called the leaf stalk. Okay, I'm going to break one leaflet off so that you can see it. That's one leaf, composed of 5 leaflets. The other way we can know that we're dealing with a compound leaf is that we have these here together, and we notice where their junctions are. There's no axillary bud in the middle there. So this we know is a compound leaf. Okay? All right, tell me about the margins. Man, what do you guys see about the margin? What is the margin? Margin is edge of leaf. Okay, and what do you notice about this? This can make you bleed. I know, because I've done it. Particularly in leaves that are dry. This is a spinulose margin. It's chewed and it's tipped with these spinulose or spines at the edge. This is not entire. An entire leaflet, I don't have one, has just a straight line, right? No toothing, no dentations, no lobing, just a nice straight line. The easiest term on this paper, okay? All right, so let's take a look at this one right here. What do you notice about this leaflet? Is it simple or compound? Who believes this to be simple? By raise of hands. I think you guys are like, oh. Okay. Well, how would you know? Look for the buds. Okay, I'm going to tell you right now because this is so far away. There's a little bud right there in the axis of this blade. So now, am I looking at a simple leaf or compound leaf? Simple. This is one leaf, okay? Because there's only one blade, it's simple. It's amazing how challenging this concept is. And it just gets down to you have to learn where is the axillary bud. Where is the axillary bud, okay? All right, so if you guys could look up closely, I'm going to describe to you what I see. The margin of this leaf has, it's kind of like this. It's not a nice smooth line. So is this entire? No. What would you think this is? I would either call this serrate or dentate. Right? It's got little tooths. All right. Okay, let's take a look at. Can you guys all see this leaf well enough in the back? No. You want to come up closer, or I can just describe what I'm seeing. Okay. So what I want you guys to kind of think about now is, what would you consider the shape of this leaf? Does anybody know the shape? I would consider it ovate. Notice that it's about as tall as it is wide. It's slightly less wide than it is tall. And the widest point of this leaflet is about in the middle. This is an ovate. Let's talk about the apex. The apex is the top of the leaf. Now, this top of the leaf comes to a point, and it kind of changes the angle as it goes. Does anybody know the name for that? Acuminate. All right, that's one of my favorite features. It's my favorite botanical term. I call it stroopiness. Okay? Let's look at the base of the leaf. That's the bottom, at the point of the blade where it attaches to the petiole. This one is cuneate. It's kind of a little bit rounded, and it comes a little bit to a point. This one also might be truncate. It's just kind of, okay, or rounded, but it's not coming to a sharp point. It's not acute. Okay? All right. Can you guys see this structure right here? It's a little purple roundish structure. It's the fruit of this tree. This is called the chokecherry. And it's actually, whoops. See how it fell off really easily? That's called caducus, meaning it falls off. And this is all dried up, but this is like a drupe. We won't get into berries or fruit types yet, but it has to do with being a very hard stone inside. And when it's dried up, there's nothing but the stone left. Okay? All right, let's look at this one. I'm going to give some of these to you guys. Probably shouldn't be doing this. I'm not supposed to even give you paper. Gently share. Okay. How would you guys describe these leaves? Simple. First and foremost, we know we're dealing with simple. What about their attachment?
Opposite.
Notice that there's a leaf on this side of the stem and a leaf on this side of the stem, and they're coming out at the same place. They are opposite of each other. Okay? Versus alternate, where we have one leaf coming off on this side, then a little ways up in the internode, another leaf coming off on this side. That's alternate. Okay? This one, this leaflet here, is not lobed, right? It's dentate, the margin. What about this one? It's kind of hard because they're a little bit turning, but that's nice and soft. What's going on here with the edge of the margin of this leaf? What is that called? Not palmately. Nope, we're talking about the margin. This palmate is a term that is usually according to points of attachment of entities like leaflets. But this one is being cut inwards. Oh, you can share it around, yeah. Okay. So this is called lobed. Okay? Each one of these little lobes, this is a lobe. So this margin of this leaf is considered lobe. It kind of dips inward and outward along the veins of the leaf. Okay? And this is called the sinus. This inward cut is the sinus of the lobe. And this is the part sticking out is the lobe. Now, if you had the opportunity to look at this closely, what would you notice about the margin? It's entire. Even though it's cut in, so it's a lobed leaf, the edges they're not toothed, so they're considered entire. Okay? All right, last thing we'll talk about is this top part here. Each of these things, what you're seeing here, is a little flower. The structure here that begins at the base of a leaf axis and continues with a number of flowers is called the inflorescence. The inflorescence is the flowering part of a plant. And an inflorescence is usually a structure that has more than one flower. If there's only one flower, it's simply called a single flower, right? It's terminal flower. You'll notice, but there are lots of them here, right? And they're attached opposite each other at nodes. There's a little bit of space in between. So what type of inflorescence are we looking at? I want you guys to turn to the back of your yellow book. And in the back of this book are some places, glossaries or appendices where they're grouped by type of part. Find the one for inflorescence, and when somebody does, please tell us the page number. I can help you this too. $172. 172 is the beginning of the category called inflorescences. All right? And on page 175, we have a key to inflorescences. So if you're faced with a plant that has an inflorescence and you don't know what kind it is, you can turn to page 175 and run it through the key and determine the inflorescence. So if you guys are all there to page 175, let's take a look at this inflorescence. Okay? Now, again, this is full of terminology, so we'll go through this a little bit slowly, but how to use a dichotomous key is that you're presented with a couplet, meaning two options and only two. The first option is number 1, and it says flowers sessile, or, middle downways through the key, flowers pedicellate. Sessile and pedicellate are the two opposing terms. Sessile means without a stalk. It's attached directly to the stem. A pedicellate means it has a pedicel. The pedicel is the term for the flower stalk. So if I look really closely here, these ones have flower stalks. Each flower attaches to the stem with a little bit of a leg. That's the pedicel. So this is a pedicellate inflorescence. So that means we choose the second part, the second couplet, and we go to number 8, inflorescence unbranched or inflorescence branched. So if I look at this, that's a challenging one on this one. Again, you need to note the placement of a leaf. Here is a leaf subtending this inflorescence, this little guy right here. And there's a leaf subtending this little inflorescence right here. This is an unbranched inflorescence, at least on this plant here. So it starts at one point and it doesn't branch. It just has a long rachis with flowers attached to it. So we're going to choose inflorescence unbranched. Pedicels arising from a common point, like the struts of an umbrella, or pedicels not arising from a common point. What's the pedicel? Huh?
So it's like the little stem of the flower.
Ah, the flower stalk. The little legs of the flower is the pedicel. Okay? The pedicel on this one, if you look closely, there's a number of them, and they're not coming off at the same point. They have many nodes. There's a stalk, a pedicel, an internode, a pedicel, an internode, a pedicel, internode. Okay? So then we're going to choose pedicels not arising from a common point. Next one, inflorescence determinate, the central or terminal flower developing first, versus inflorescence indeterminate, the lateral or basal flowers developing first. So if we look at this, no, that's hard. But it actually looks like the top ones are developing, or the middle ones, because they're still very, very young. So that one we're going to choose indeterminate, because the lateral or basal flowers are developing first, okay? Versus the very, very top ones. There, you can see the yellow petals coming out more towards the middle or base of this inflorescence. And then the next one is inflorescence flat-topped, or rounded, or elongate. Okay, what do you guys think? Does everybody agree that this is elongate? Okay, good. So that tells us that this is a raceme. That's the type of inflorescence we're dealing with, okay? So this is a wonderful resource for learning the botanical language of describing and talking about plant parts. You can use the terminology by category to help you. There are also some wonderful resources here. If you turn to page turn to page 159. There are these large plates that have all the different shapes and types of an organ, pretty much. You can see this one happens to be leaflet margins. And so you can also use this to say, okay, I've got this leaf, I'm going to look at this plate, what does it mostly look like, okay? And this can help you to learn the terms. Okay, so any questions so far?
What is the difference between a pedicel and a peduncle?
Ah, good question. So Tyler asks, what is the difference between a pedicel and a peduncle? A pedicel is a flower stalk. It is for one single flower. And it happens that they are attached to the rachis, or the flowering portion of an inflorescence. The peduncle is the inflorescence stalk, okay? So it's the portion of the inflorescence where there are no flowers. In this particular one, I'm going to peel off the leaves here. It's really hard to see because it's so small for you guys in the back. There's not much of a peduncle here. I mean, it's there. It's the point of attachment of the inflorescence. and the stem, okay? But here, it's mostly producing flowers along the entirety of the rachis. The rachis is the elongate portion of this raceme where the flowers are attached to it. The peduncle would be an elongated portion without flowers. It's the inflorescent stalk. At the point where the flowers begin to be attached, we call that point onward the rachis of the inflorescence. At the point below the point of a flower attachment to where it attaches to the stem, we call that the peduncle, the inflorescent stalk. Okay? All right, any other questions? Okay, so do you think this exercise was useful to help you learn terms and begin seeing the diversity of plants? I feel like you're falling asleep. Yes? No?
Yeah.
Okay. Good? All right. How many of you were able to find all of your terms? What were some terms you did not find?
Yeah,
Umbel. I think no one found an umbel today. That's okay. Keep looking in your backyards. Right?
Aspen Grove has millions.
Millions. Yes, there are millions. What else didn't you find? Was anyone able to find palmately compound?
Yeah.
You did?
Virginia Creeper right down there.
Say that one more time.
There's Virginia Creeper right down there.
Virginia creeper. Okay, maybe you can show us that in just a moment. Okay. Oh, she's got one. Can I borrow that?
Yes, you can.
Okay, this is a leaf, a single leaf from the Virginia creeper, which is a plant I abhor because I cannot kill it. And notice that it has 5 leaflets, okay, and they're coming out from a single point. You can turn it backwards and you can see where they're coming out of here. Like the palm of our hand, we have our digits coming off from a central point. That is called palmate. That one's an easy one to remember now that you know it, right? Because of the palms of our hand. And it's compound because there are multiple leaflets. Down here, when this is attached, you would find an axillary bud, and that helps you to know that this is a compound leaf. Okay? All right, what else I'm stuck to the floor. That's terrible. What else was people not able to find?
Hypanthium.
A hypanthium. Did anyone find a hypanthium? Does anybody know what a hypanthium is? Okay, we will learn that term more probably on the third field class. A hypanthium is a specialized structure that supports when the point of attachment of the flowering parts begin to be separate whorls. A hypanthium is an extension of the receptacle or the bottom of a flower where it's thickened, and all of the whorls are kind of fused at the bottom into what we call a hypanthium. It's a specific structure that is found largely, not completely, but commonly in the Rosaceae family. So if any of you have roses in your yard, you can take one and do a cross section of it in 2 different ways, and you can see the hypanthium.
Would that be?
Okay. Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
nice.
We have sort of. We can't see it here because they're in fruit, but okay. So we have here a rose plant,
Nice.
and this is called a rose hip. It's the fruiting structure of the plant. And the hypanthium, actually, that's kind of what has formed in the fruit. Now we can't really see the hypanthium so much anymore because it develops into this hip inside, okay? But if you were to cut this in cross section, you could see the thickened walls of this fruit, and that actually develops, the receptacle here and the hypanthium develop into this fruit. We don't have any flowers, unfortunately, but we'll get an opportunity to look at that hopefully in the future. Okay? All right, any other terms? Thank you. Those are mostly the troublesome ones that people weren't finding.
Leaf scar. I wasn't able to find.
Oh, a leaf scar.
Those are so cool.
Yeah, this one's not Oh yeah, okay, so actually, it's here. So if you were to go up to a tree like this, not all trees produce this that are very visible, and you just pull off the leaf, and you look with your loop and stare at that, you can actually see the leaf scar in there. And I'll let you guys do that on your own time. So it requires a loop to look at really close.
Okay.
Any other ones? Questions?
No, the link.
The ligule, okay. That is one of our advanced terms. And I have one right here. Okay, so a ligule is a specialized term to describe the flower part of asters or the sunflower family. What you're looking at here is called a head. A head is a type of inflorescence. This is not one flower. This is hundreds of flowers. This is kind of a fun example of nature's comedy, because this plant has evolved such that the flowers look like a single flower, but there are hundreds of them in here. And there's two types in this particular plant. What we call ray flowers, which are these end ones that have this floret here. Ray, floret, and disc flowers. Okay? And a ligule, ooh, that's sticky, is it's really hard to see without a macro lens. I can't really teach you this right in this way. But I encourage you, go ahead, question?
Will you ever like send out a thing that has pictures with it side by side so we know exactly what it is? That way, like some of the things I've been taking pictures of could be wrong. I can kind of be like, oh, that's not what I was thinking it was.
I could do that. I could send out a key after everyone has submitted their assignment, kind of giving you, but to be honest with you, I'll probably end up taking a lot of the photos out of this book as a way to show you, just so that I don't have to spend 3 hours doing it myself. I got other things to do. But I can do that. I can send out, but it will mostly be from your book. It's easier to see. The line drawings are very clear, whereas it's hard to see on this tiny thing. But I can do that. I can do that, and I will do that as after everyone has given their assignments in. Okay. So the ligule is actually a type and part of one of the types of flowers in the aster family. Let's take a look at it in your book, if you won't mind. It's easier for you to see in your book. So on page 64, this is a strap-shaped organ, figure 665, but it's more commonly, what I really want you to find is figure 666. The membranous appendage arising from the inner surface of the leaf at the junction of the leaf sheath, figure 6. Wow, this is used in a lot of different ways. Look at figure 666, because that's what I'm showing you here. The ligule in the aster family is this portion of the flower that looks like a tongue. Okay? It's what you're seeing here in this ray flower. If you looked in the middle of this flower, it's full of disc flowers, and they don't have ligules. Only the outside flowers do. Okay? So take some time later on to pull up a dandelion and look up the term ligule and pull that dandelion apart and see if you could find the ligule in the dandelion. Okay? Question? Question?
Oh, so it's not like the leaf that comes out, or like the petal itself, it's something else? Or is it the petal?
No, it is, in this case, it is this particular petal. So this is the specialized structure. And it's exactly what stuck to my thumb right now.
Okay, the little yellow
The little
petal
yellow
like,
one, and it is part of the ray flower. It's called the ligule.
Okay.
And it's specialized term for the Asteraceae family. As you can see, this term is used in a number of different ways. It's also a part of the grass family and the specialized flowers and grasses and other forms. So this is the most prominent example of it. And question here? Anyone else? I saw another hand.
I was just gonna ask the same thing.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I guess I'm still confused the difference between the actual ray flower and the ligule.
So the ligule is part of the ray flower.
Like
It's the tongue.
Oh, it's the tongue
Yep,
part.
it's the yellow part that looks like a tongue sticking
Oh,
out. Okay,
Where
so
the
it's-
whole ray flower goes down into the
Yeah.
petals.
Mhm, yes. Into the entirety, and that's a specialized structure. And unfortunately, we might not get to that level of depth with asters in this class, partly because it's hard to find them at this time. And most asters are not actually woody shrubs, trees, but some of them are. Quite a few of them are, but not all of
I
them.
didn't see it.
All right, any other questions? Okay, all right, so I want you to please complete this on your own time if you can. We're going to, how many of you do not have or did not bring a copy of the Key 2019? Okay, Jade, you don't have one? Okay, we might ask you to share or look along with someone else if you can. Let's go ahead and pack up our stuff, and we're gonna go and actually key out our first plant today using the Key 2019, so pull that out.